Welcome to the INSEAD Emerging Markets Podcast, GCC edition. I'm here today with Victor Abou Rahal, a longtime player in the digital transformation, business development, and tech space in the GCC region. He's really been a leader there for the past quarter century. He's currently the CEO of Nerovate. Nerovate is a pioneering Saudi-based startup delivering digital water solutions. And water management is really one of the most pressing challenges in the region. It fuels Nerovate's mission to revolutionize how we optimize resources, reduce waste, and build a more sustainable future. Prior to this, Victor was CEO of Boxit For Me. He was also vice president of digital business at ADNOC Distribution, where he spearheaded projects that modernized that company's digital landscape and enhanced customer experience. And as an entrepreneur at heart, Victor has founded and led multiple ventures, including his first company, which he led for almost 2 decades. Victor holds a global executive MBA from INSEAD, along with multiple professional certifications such as a PMP, Six Sigma, and ITIL. And he has been recognized by CIO Global as one of the most promising CEOs to watch in 2024. Thrilled to have Victor on the podcast. I think there's so much to cover, but maybe a great place to start would just be to go back and look at the beginning of your career. I saw that you started your first business more than 20 years ago, and I was curious what your thoughts were at that time. How did you first get into web development, which I believe that business was mostly focused on in digital transformation? I guess you could say worked in a lot of different industries, but you really helped a lot of different traditional industries in the region digitally transform. So I was wondering what you saw at that time earlier in your career, if you saw that it would lead to all that you've done now, or what the opportunities were at that time. But maybe just a brief overview of your background and how it led to you to where you are now would be really helpful to start.
Nick, thanks for having me. So basically what happened is that I started at university in computer science. I always loved technology. And at that time, I was working for an ISP as a customer service or night support. That company, after a couple of years, decided to close. And therefore, I opened my own company of doing like websites and online services. And I started with about 80 clients directly because I inherited that from that company. So it was an easy start. I ran that business for a while, and then I decided that I'm only gaining some experience from my own and wanted to see more what multinationals do. So I ended up coming to Dubai, and I started working into various businesses in the region and mainly into digital transformation and digital solutions.
No, it seems you've been incredibly successful since you've done that. Looking at some of the more recent companies that you're working for, you're now at Nerovate, and most recently before that, you sold Boxit For Me. You were brought in to manage the exit, I believe, and prepare the bride, as you say, and you worked on people, products, and processes. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that experience, why you decided to take that opportunity, what you saw in the company, and why you believe that it was a company that could be exited profitably.
The people, process, and platform is a framework in digital transformation, right? Usually people, they think in digital transformation, if you bring a certain technology or solution and you plug it in, that's digital transformation. Well, actually, they forget the people, which is culture and training and change management and the process before they get into the solution. So let me take you back on how I got to Boxit For Me. As you said, I've done the Global Executive MBA at INSEAD. And during that period, one of the colleagues started this Boxit For Me, which is a cross-border logistics startup company. I've helped them to build the first MVP. And then after that, I went into ADNOC, where I was the vice president of digital transformation. I've built that arm from scratch, and we did some exciting project there. Then COVID came. And because of COVID, as you know, during COVID, everything that is into logistics boomed. So the business of Boxit For Me multiplied in a very short period of time, which made the business become a little bit messy. And then one of the founders, who was the CEO, asked me to step in as a CEO to basically prepare the bride, fix the company, to either bring investors, or the best option was to exit, to sell it out and exit. I took that challenge for multiple reasons, but one of them was, as an entrepreneur who likes this space, I never had an exit because the previous businesses were mainly for me or mentoring some other people. So I took that challenge, and this is what happened. For a year, we fixed all the aspects of that company. And then the year after, we had a couple of investors interested in the company that we ended up signing with one, and we exited fully. So this is what happened there. And then after that, I went to Nerovate, where the shareholders selected me to be the CEO of this startup, which is totally different industry. So ADNOC was in oil and gas, Boxit For Me was in logistics, and the current one is in digital solution for the water business and based in Saudi. So again, I took this challenge and I'm here now.
Amazing. I definitely want to get into the other two leadership positions you held. It's really interesting that you have that leadership in really different industries from each other. And I think it shows that maybe deep industry knowledge doesn't really matter if you are a good leader, especially if you have that MBA training that exposes you to the leadership qualities and culture and change management, as you mentioned. Before I get it to the other companies, though, I'd be curious to learn more about how that process was selling Boxit For Me. Were you looking for strategic buyers or financial buyers within the GCC region, or were you more broad than that? Did you have a strategy going in, knowing that that was the ultimate goal within that short time frame that you actually were able to sell it? Maybe you could just talk a little bit more about that. I'd love to learn more about what your strategy there was and how you executed on it.
My CEO experience in Boxit For Me was interesting and challenging. Just to give you an overview of that, while I was previously a CEO of companies, but those companies were my own. And then I held positions in structured companies like ADNOC, where you are responsible of, let's say, the digital transformation arm. And therefore, you're very focused on your vertical if you want, right? In Boxit For Me, I was a CEO for a company where you have the shareholders. And therefore, I had to do my role as a CEO plus report to the shareholders. Where it became exciting and more challenging is when we started looking into investors, because then I had not only to run the business, but also to do this kind of work for the acquisition, the valuation, the legal stuff, all of that. Our objective back then, when we decided we want to either find an investor or preferably go to an exit, was to sustain the business. We wanted to make sure that the business will stay. We wanted to make sure that people are protected, not fired. So that was the ultimate goal. And that's why we were focusing on companies that are into the logistics or something similar to that, where Boxit For Me would add value to them. As I said, it was very challenging because as a CEO, you have to switch between different hats at a very short period of time. And that's why I call it was my second MBA. While in MBA, you cover all aspects of a business, but being the CEO in in the shoes of a CEO, you are actually driving that, not in theory, but in practice. So basically, you have to switch every few minutes or 20 minutes or so between different topics. Like you do 20 minutes HR, then you do 20 minutes operation, then customer service, then product development, then legal, then shareholder, then partners, then marketing, back to HR. So that was kind of a new experience for me and tiring. And this is one of the things now when I mentor people that are CEOs or they want to open new companies, I make sure they are aware of that because it's exhausting. You need to be very structured. You need to know everything and be on top of everything, especially in a startup. When you are a CEO in a big company, you have people handling that. But when you are in a startup, it's your responsibility and you are pretty much involved in every aspect. And all of us usually are good or at ease, or our comfort zone is in one or two or three things in a business, but not everything. So if you're good in technology, you probably hate finance. If you're good in finance, you probably hate marketing and sales, right? And so on. But being a CEO, you have to do everything, whether you like it or not. You have to be on top of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that. First of all, the point that you made about wanting to sell to a larger logistics company so that the team could stay on and the company could stay more or less true to its mission. I think that's a point that is often missed when people talk about M&A, where people think that, oh, it's just a financial decision and they're going to sell for the highest amount possible. And in reality, that's really not the case. I think a lot of business owners, they do care about legacy and they do care about taking care of their business and their team. And that's why they do look for a buyer that is aligned with them in terms of where they would like to see the business go, even if they're no longer with it. And To your second point about a second MBA, I mean, I think that being a small business CEO or being a startup CEO, it is really one of the few positions where you truly use all that you learn in the MBA and you have to really figure it out on your own. And definitely not easy, as you said, but clearly you've been successful at it. You've been a leader in a lot of different types of organizations, ones that were businesses that you started that were more, I guess, lifestyle type businesses. And then you're also CEOs of startups and then leaders in larger organizations. I was curious, over the years, you clearly faced a lot of challenges. You've done well. You've had a tackled opportunity. I was curious if you could describe your leadership style, what sets it apart, and if any challenges that you faced have shaped that leadership style.
Well, my leadership style is an accumulation of all the years, of course. By being an employee myself, I used to look at, the leaders I had and the managers I had, and they had an idea what I like, what I don't like. So definitely that's part of it. Another part that I cannot deny is INSEAD. In the Global Executive MBA, they have something very special. So you have the academic path, of course, but INSEAD, they have also this lovely leadership path. During the whole program, you have a parallel program of leadership where you are with mentors, where you are with the experts and with your peers, and you work on your leadership style and aspects, and you get, real-time feedback in an open manner, in a safe space, which I believe it was great to have. And also, another part is the empathy and communication, which I feel that a lot of leaders, they lack. People think when I'm in a leadership position, I have the power, I impose things and I push things, and I'm a bulldozer and I don't care about the rest, which does a lot of damage. Or even if that serves the business, but it does a lot of damage on people. As I told you, in digital transformation, we care about people, process, and platform. And in customer experience, as a bigger umbrella where I am, we look at the customer experience, which means people. People are your clients, but also your internal clients, your employees. So empathy is something that I didn't have or didn't value. But over the year, I worked on that. I have to give also the credit to my wife, who made me realize that, because especially here, a little bit probably in the Arab world, it's very tough environment, But yes, empathy is something really important. So I listen to my team. I'm close to them, friends, but in a professional way. I think this is something part of my leadership style, if you want to call it like that. The other part would be different environments. As we spoke, in ADNOC, it was where I led critical but very challenging digital transformation initiatives with a lot of what you call it politics and culture and, competing priorities. Of course, that added to my leadership, being a CEO of a startup, without forgetting that in my younger years, I passed around 20 years as a Boy Scout and leader. I'm positive that that had also an impact on my leadership style, because there I was a leader, and you learn to work in groups, smaller groups, smaller community, with the team members being a team player and all of that. So I think it's a combination. It's a combination. It's not something that you go and you get trained and then you have a certain leadership style. And it's very difficult to assess. You have to listen to people that works with you where they can give this feedback.
Sure. Well, I mean, it seems like you're pretty good at reflecting and self-aware. And it's interesting that you mentioned the Boy Scouts. We've had a couple other guests who talked about playing sports when they're young and the impact that had on them. And I think being able to look at these childhood experiences and see what they've taught us is really powerful. And if you're point on empathy, I mean, business is about people. It's employees, it's customers, it's suppliers, it's all just humans. And being able to empathize with them is how you do well in business, in my opinion. So really appreciate that viewpoint as well. Something that you did say, though, stood out to me a little bit, how you're saying in the Arab world is it's tougher. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about unique challenges to leadership within the Arab world.
Now that I reflect on this, Nick, I think I was lucky enough to have those two experiences. One is the Scouts here, and the second one is INSEAD, simply because I had a safe place to learn, do mistakes, and get honest feedback without affecting the business, where usually in business you don't get this type of feedback and you're probably cautious about everything you do and say. So probably those two things, they had an enormous effect on the development of my personality and the leadership style.
Definitely. I think that is great that was that for you. And it is one of the benefits from the MBA is I think a lot of us, we get so stuck in our careers and in our habits, and there's not that time to reflect and be around a group of diverse people who are not directly competing with you or within your industry necessarily, and you get to be around them and grow so fast within that 1 year or however long your program is. So definitely can see the value in that as well. And seems like you're someone who has learned a lot. You've been very successful, and you also now mentor other startups. And so I was wondering if you could talk about, first of all, just how you help the startups that you work with, and then maybe some examples of how you have helped them overcome challenges that they may have overlooked or critical issues that they were struggling with.
So one example that usually occurs with founders I mentor is that they concentrate on their comfort zone. And this is usually what by default we all do that unconsciously, right? To give you an example, they go into a certain product or service and they think that by having a fantastic idea, that's enough for me to have the business. So for example, I had someone into a health tech space. I have another one that was into green transportation solution, another one into logistics, and everyone was kind of the same. They think they have a good product. They are very at ease to do one part of the business or to develop the idea and the service, and they think that's enough. And this is where usually we discuss that it's not only about innovation and the product, but also that would guarantee the success, but the whole aspect of the business. And then we go into focusing into different places, for example, into the market fit, the scalability, the market penetration, competition, the regulations, fund cash flow. So we try to tackle different aspects of the business that sometimes they overlook, because this will come back and will affect them definitely. Founders typically think finding funds or investments would be their main challenge. I usually explain to them that finding money is probably the easiest thing, which is weird, but it is, simply because if you have a good idea that is scalable and profitable, even if it's not profitable now, but it has the potential to be profitable, people with money, they will invest in you. It's a no-brainer. The trick for an investor is to look at different aspects, which are the risk, scalability, and these kind of things, and the market fit. Because if you think your idea is good, that doesn't mean the market thinks that you are good. If your idea is easy to imitate, competition will come with bigger money and faster and will eat you up. So you need to think about all those aspects. And this is what we do usually in those kind of mentoring sessions, to discuss and make sure that the founder or CEO are not, because they are too much involved in the business, they don't look at these, all of those aspects. So I help them to do that. Not to forget to take into considerations things like the risks, stress, the mental health of the person. So life balance usually is very important, because it's very stressful. When you are an owner, the business is your life. So you don't have office hours. You can work 24/7, and that would drain you fast. So they need to be conscious about that. This is where we discuss also with the solopreneurship to have co-founders, at least one, maximum two, not more. So they can help each other, they can encourage each other, and kind of complete each other. As you know, you have also two types of startups. You have the scale ups, those who wants to scale and become big and all of that, the unicorn. And you have the other type, which is the lifestyle, where I want my startup to give me enough money to live in a decent way. And usually they don't consider both. So we make sure that their target is clear. where they want to be, because the objectives and the investments and all of that will be related to whether they want to scale up or a lifestyle one. Therefore, during those mentoring sessions, we open up the discussion on all those dimensions that founders usually try to avoid because they want to stay in their comfort zone.
Definitely. I think it's always very good to think about why you're doing what you're doing before you actually start doing it and what your actual goals are. And clearly, through years of experience, you are being very helpful for a lot of these young startup founders. Was wondering if you have thoughts on the biggest challenges of going from a corporate role, someone who's never been in the startup world, to becoming an entrepreneur working for themselves. I think you might have answered it already, but just curious if you have any thoughts in general about what someone should prepare themselves for. And you mentioned that they should have one co-founder, maybe two, but not more than that. I would also want to follow up on that and hear your thoughts on why those numbers are the ones that you think are necessary.
Let me start with that question first, and then we'll move to the other one. Why more than one? Simply because if you are the business and something happens to you, or you are no longer motivated, or you decided to take another role, the whole startup will go, right? So if you are, I don't know, let's say a doctor, and you found this, you want to create a certain app where you put yourself as a consultant inside of it, and then suddenly you have another opportunity to do, and you go, the whole business will go. So investors, they usually avoid investing in those startups or companies with one founder who is also the company. They usually prefer the two, or if not the three, but not more, because when it's more, it becomes too complex to manage. Two or three is preferable, and it's always preferable to be complementary. So you have someone which is more into, let's say, sales, another one is more into the technology as the CTO. So you have this balance, and they challenge each other, than only one person with one idea. So this is my experience. I'm not a VC, but probably if you talk to those VCs, this is what I hear, and this is my experience so far. They don't like the one person. They don't like the so many. They prefer two or three. So that's it. For your other question about transitioning from a corporate role to an entrepreneurship role, this is exciting and challenging, especially in a dynamic, fast evolving market here, like in the GCC. Okay, my advice would be to focus on three key areas: the mindset, market, understanding, and resilience. Okay, first, the mindset, because you need to shift from being a specialist in a company where you're looking at your vertical. As I said, it's an organized company, to become a decision maker and a problem solver. So you need to have this mindset shift. In entrepreneurship, you wear multiple hats, as we discussed. So you need to become aware and competent in all of them, and therefore to embrace this transition and some uncertainty. When you are an employee of a company, you don't worry about the overall company aspects and the stability and all of that. You would worry, but it's not on your shoulder. When you are a CEO of startup, or you are the entrepreneur, you have all of this on your shoulder. So the best way to test this is probably start taking initiative as an entrepreneur inside the company you are in. And this is what I usually advise those people. They come and they say, okay, we want to do this transition, we're not sure. And I say, try to be an intrapreneur instead of an entrepreneur. By taking initiatives, try to build them or run them from A to Z, including all the aspects like the financial part, the marketing part, the selling it to different stakeholders inside the company. So you need to test this fully. And this is what I've done in all my previous roles, including ADNOC, where I built this digital arm from scratch. So it's good to test the waters and make sure you're okay with all these challenges before you jump and leave your company and go into entrepreneurship, especially if you are the main provider of the family, right? If you're not, if you have some other income, okay, maybe you can jump and take the risk. There is no problem. But if you are the main provider, you want to test the waters before you fully jump in, because you're jumping as well your family with you into this journey. And second is to understand the market and its nuances. The GCC market is unique. The characteristic is that it's very rapid. You have rapid transformation, you have government-driven initiatives, and a mix of traditional and emerging sectors. So you need to take your time to understand the market, to research, to build relationship within the ecosystem where you're going, and to see how you can leverage the opportunities that are happening, like the Vision 2030 in Saudi or the expo that happened in Dubai, and see where is really the opportunity there to have something sustainable, to see the technology that's happening, all of that. The third part is to build resilience. And as you know, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. Like it's a roller coaster ride where you have highs and lows, and everything tests your confidence and your temper and basically your resilience. So what I usually tell people to surround themselves with a strong network of mentors, peers, and advisors that can always help, like offer them guidance and perspective, and let them look at the big picture always, rather than the small problem you have on hand that you worry about. And be prepared to iterate your ideas, to fail fast, and get up and move and learn from all those setbacks while keeping your vision aligned with your passion. This is it usually. The GCC is a fantastic place for entrepreneurship, for entrepreneurs, because we have all those resources, funding, infrastructure that are rapidly evolving, the support of governments, and all those accelerators that are in the region. So you just need to make sure that you can adapt. You focus on creating value all the time and never lose sight of why you're taking the sleep at the first place. And make sure you invest in your health, because your health is you. And without your health, you will lose everything. So an entrepreneur need to be very conscious about that. That yes, I don't have office time from, let's say, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, but I need to be structured and I need to fit into my daily routine time for me to to simply keep your sanity, right?
For sure. Mental health is so very important. And it's hard to remember to take care of it when you're an entrepreneur, as I know myself as well. And I appreciate the last point you made about the GCC being such a great region for entrepreneurship right now. I mean, I think this only happens every so often. A place like China 15 years ago, I mean, to a much lesser extent, maybe in the tech ecosystem, places like Estonia or Israel or Singapore. But with the combination of capital, geographic location, forward-thinking governments, it really is a special place in the world to be right now if you are an entrepreneur. And I really like your big picture thinking. I think that was just a ton of great advice you gave to potential entrepreneurs. I'm not going to go into all of it, but what I would be curious about, though, is your own thinking about your own entrepreneurial decisions and why you decided to lead Nerovate now. What was the opportunity that you saw that made you think that this is a company that is one that you would want to lead now in this region?
So, as I said, things actually happened without the extra planning, if you want, because as I said, we had the exit of Boxit For Me, where I decided not to stay as the CEO after the acquisition. So I handed over and was planning to leave. And this is where someone called me and said, we have this opportunity in the water business for a new startup. And I hesitated at the beginning because I just went out from a startup. I wasn't sure if I want to go back to another one. The difference here is that because it's a joint venture, so I had the support of two huge companies, the shareholders. So yes, I was building a new company, but not from scratch. So I had the support of things like legal, finance, and HR, and all of that. Going into a new sector was exciting for me. As you said before, some people, they are comfortable to be in one line of business for 20 years. For me, I switch industries, but I'm still in the digital transformation. So that's the constant. Whether it was the oil and gas or logistics or now water, I'm still into the technology, digital transformation space, and the startup kind of thing. And the opportunity was in Saudi while I was based in Dubai. That was also for me one of the reasons why I took the challenge, because I said now the market is moving very rapidly in Saudi, especially with the Vision 2030, the new leadership. As you know, all the big projects now, everything is happening there. So I said, okay, let me be one of the first movers to go there, see what's happening, and see if that market is for me. So it was the opportunity that came to me, and I took it. So this is how I came about this role.
Sure. Sometimes it's best just to take the opportunities that come to you. Speaking of Vision 2030, I was wondering if you could share your thoughts on it, how it is helping the startup ecosystem in the region, and what transformations you think will happen in Saudi and the region in general because of such an ambitious plan.
So the Vision 2030 of Saudi Arabia is reshaping the entrepreneurial ecosystem in an unprecedented way. And through my work at Nerovate, I've had the privilege to witness this transformation firsthand. So, as you know, they are trying to move very fast. So you have this fast-paced kind of mindset now there to gain a lot of experience because they're new into this. So they are pushing diversity. It's very vibrant culture. You have a lot of government-backed initiatives. You have accelerators, funding program, innovation hubs, all of that. So it's really exciting place to be. Saudi, I've read in an article before that because they want to expand, they identified three main issues. The first one was the infrastructure, including road, traffics, all of that. The second one is housing. We're talking about availability and the quality of housing to attract all those expatriates, and the water. So water is also one of the main challenges there. The digital transformation is a main pillar now in Saudi, not just the buzzword, but they're putting it in practice. So you can see all the governmental bodies, companies there, they are getting into this journey. They are not as advanced as Dubai if we want to compare, but they are moving at a faster pace. So Vision 2030 is after 5 years. So I think within 2030 and after that, we're going to see Saudi in a totally different place. Not in the cities, only in the cities that we know now, like Riyadh, Dammam, Jeddah, and all of that, but also you have all those new cities that are coming. I'm sure you heard about Neom, the Red Sea project, and all of that. It's very exciting there. So you have a lot of opportunities for startups to transition or to build there into multiple sectors. You can see now a lot of things happening into in the focus of smart cities, AI, IoT solutions. I'm not just throwing buzzwords here, but you see them in practice there. This is the focus, right? They are looking at the future, and they want to be one of the best places in technology to attract people and to diversify their revenue, not just from oil and gas, but to other sectors like entertainment, healthcare, education, all of that. So they have very big ambitions. I think it is the place to be now there. And that vision of 2030 is not just transforming Saudi Arabia. I believe it's creating a ripple effect on the region as well. The blend of ambition, resources, and talents is unlike anything I've seen before. And for entrepreneurs, the opportunities are unique and endless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Saudi's Vision 2030 is world famous now, but a lot of people don't know that actually a lot of the neighboring countries also have their own vision and plans that they've put in place for a similar timeline and mirroring similar goals. So definitely a really exciting place to be in the world right now. I think whether it's water or any other traditional industry, you're seeing that just the bleeding edge of tech is coming and trying to modernize these industries in this region. And so I think it's one of the most exciting places to be in the world right now. And I'm sure the work that you're doing is really fulfilling and invigorating because of that.
Creating a healthy competition within Saudi itself and in the region, right? So when the regions start to or countries start to boost and expand like Dubai did, it will have an effect on other regions, other countries. And now Saudi is leading and pushing, so it will also have a bigger effect. It's a healthy competition, I think, and especially the mindset. And this brings one main aspect, which is very important, other than the having the funds and ideas and technology, because this is easy. It's the manpower. You have the skills now around the world coming to Dubai. Look at yourself now. You are doing those series in Dubai and Saudi. So it brings the attention of VCs. It brings the attention of businesses. It brings the attention of the talents to come to the region, which we need for this Vision 2030 and for all the big plans that they have set here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really amazing. I was just wondering if there's anything else that you would like to talk about.
No, what I can tell you is about us in Nerovate. So while we are not looking now to exit, of course, we are still in the early stage. We always have the focus on bringing sustainable solution to positively affect the environment, but also the economic part to be profitable and all of that. So I think nowadays lots of startups are doing that. So it's not about only the economic part or the profitability. Of course, that's important, but you want to think about the impact you're doing. And that's why we look at things now a lot about sustainability, how to have a scalable solution that helps you to reduce cost, increase efficiency and collaboration, have more transparency and visibility on the business. So I think everyone's kind of looking at that. And this will drive later on the other aspect of having investors or exiting on all of that. I think you need to have your foundation set correctly and to manage between those two, the profitability and the sustainability part or the environment impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially if your goal is to sell on the international market these days, most investment firms will require that you are in accordance with the ESG regulations. Though your business, of course, is one that's, water is basically an essential need, especially in an arid region like the Gulf. And so you're making an impact no matter what. But I think that is something that anyone running a business should be thinking about. I mean, people think, okay, yeah, emerging markets, places like Africa, you can get a good valuation and so on. But if your goal is to sell, you do need to focus on making an impact. And hopefully the goal is to make an impact regardless. But I think it's something that everyone who's running a business these days does need to think about. But thank you so much for joining, Victor.
We at Nerovate, we approach this balance with the belief that social impact and profitability are not mutually exclusive, right? But can in fact reinforce each other when aligned strategically correctly and putting everything in your strategy to deliver that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think doing business the right way should lead to profits. And it's very refreshing to hear that that's your philosophy as well.
Perfect.
Well, yeah, really enjoy this conversation. For those listening, that you may not know that my teammate had to bring an iPad into Victor's office. So it's been a little bit not traditional podcast, but Victor powered through, and I think we still had a lot of really interesting conversation. And so it was great to meet you. Hope to meet you in person soon. But thanks so much for being on the podcast, Victor.
You have to rely on the technology, right? On the digital solution. Thank you, Nick, for having me. And I hope the ideas I shared with you would benefit a lot of people and would be valuable. But thank you for reaching out.
Sure. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the INSEAD Emerging Markets Podcast. To stay up to date on events we may be hosting, emerging market news, and to build your personal network, please feel free to join the INSEAD Alumni Emerging Markets Interest Group on LinkedIn.